This is the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast. On this edition, we are going to get to a Stryper poll that I had set up, talk about the results of that. We're going to talk about our favorite songs and albums from the past year, as this is our year in review. And then we're going to talk about basically what we've done this past year and do the best of clips from throughout the year and talk about records and that we've rated and reviewed. All right. Welcome back to the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast, where it's all about the Christian hard rock and metal, and we're passionate about it. We hope to share that passion with you because this is the rock that makes me roll. All right. I'm your host, Arin Hancock, joined as always by my co-host, Kris Plamondon. How are you doing, Kris?
I'm doing good, Arin Rockman. How you doing?
Good. Yeah. I know for the first couple of years, we were using monikers or part of our name, whatever. But hey, I'm comfortable using my full name. And if you
guess we could try it. I'm a little scared of my privacy. I don't want to be stalked.
You don't want to be famous?
I do, but I don't,
That's where Kiss had it made. They could be famous rock stars, but with the makeup on, nobody recognized them outside of the stage area.
Yeah, that's it. I want to be able to shop in privacy.
All right. So if you've just joined us for the first time, welcome to the podcast. And if you've been with us for a while, then thanks for sticking around. We actually have a couple new subscribers. Actually, I think we've had a couple new ones on Spotify as well. But I can't, unfortunately, Spotify doesn't tell me who has subscribed, just tells me numbers.
On Spotify?
Yeah. They don't tell me who. They just say how many. But we're also on YouTube, and YouTube will let me know who is subscribing, and we've got a few new subscribers on YouTube. So, welcome to the program, IT Crafton, Douglas Kriske, Marvin Hill, and JJ Fox. And if I messed up any of your names, I am sorry. I'm just trying to read out the handles.
It wasn't his fault.
I'm just trying to read out the handles that you guys have on YouTube here. We have a couple comments too that went back this was within the year, but went back a few episodes. A couple comments on Scott Wenzel episode. Remember when we had Scott on? Scott Wenzel, for those who don't know, it was the vocalist for Whitecross. Him and Rex are not working together anymore. Rex Carroll being the guitarist for Whitecross. Scott sort of retired. Anyways, one of the comments we had on that episode from OllieCat 2000, he says, "Why did you not ask him if he is still singing or if he would ever do a Whitecross concert again, even one time?" Now, we never asked him that directly. We did, I think, ask him about singing and what he was doing. I know we asked him that. So if you didn't hear the answer to that, then he obviously didn't stick around for the full interview. So we asked him, about what he was doing. He wasn't really doing anything. And as far as would he ever do a Whitecross concert again? Now, we didn't get a direct answer. I think we've got our answer, though. Just because the Scott Wenzel was kind of a continuation of our Rex Carroll interview. Rex Carroll being the guitarist with Whitecross. He's always been the guitarist for Whitecross, except for a few years when he had left the band. He's reformed the band with a whole new lineup and a brand new vocalist. And when we talked to Rex, he would give his side of the story as far as what happened, and then he kept saying, "You should talk to Scott. You should talk to Scott." So we thought we would, and we did. As far as Scott Wenzel doing a Whitecross concert, I think it would take a lot to do even one Whitecross concert. Scott and Rex do not get along work
Mm-mm.
wise. It's like oil and water, cats and dogs, whatever cliche you want to
Yeah,
use. And I think the the problem, from what I've gathered from talking to both of them, is both of them want full control of the band and have the band go the way they. Now, would they come on and work together for a single reunion, a single concert?
probably. Yeah,
Possibly. I mean, in the world of music, in the world of rock and roll, like, you can never say never. We've seen lots of reunion tours of bands we thought would never ever get back together, and there's a few tours out there that, even saying that, I don't think will ever get back together.
no, no. I agree with you partly because of Rex and with their new vocalist, who I mean, their songs right now are just incredible,
But yeah,
right? Like
definitely.
the album is 2 years out, 2 years old, right? Okay, yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I don't think maybe like for a single or like you said, a reunion. You
Yeah,
know,
it's possible that they could get together, I think, for a concert, maybe. And I don't know. I really think if we'd asked Scott directly, he probably would say no because it's not on his list of things that he's trying to do, he wants to do. I think he just moved on. You got to remember too that some of these guys, are not spring chickens anymore. They're getting up there in age. I think Scott is kind of happily retired. We kind of
yeah,
asked him that,
yeah,
didn't we?
that's right. Yeah, he didn't give any indication like, yes, I'd like to get back with working with Rex and the new vocalist. He didn't even come remotely into that conversation.
No. All right. On another note, again, talking about the Scott Wenzel episode, we got from Hispand and Navian says he's just basically giving his memories of Whitecross. He says, I got saved at their concert in Virginia in April '89 at the age of 14. Still have Love on the Line EP cassette. Wow, that's going back, I think.
That's
And
a
the J card sign. I think that means a Jesus card, probably dedicating your life type of idea. Anyways, he says, a year later in the May, I saw them at Bethel Temple in Hampton, Virginia. After the show, I went to tell them about my progress, and I still have the triumphant return poster sign. Now that's nice. That's a nice keepsake there. All right, so that's it for comments. Leave comments on YouTube if you're watching YouTube. Rate us. Leave comment. I know you can leave comments on Apple if you're listening on Apple. You should be able to do so through Spotify, wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you leave a comment, I'll try and search it out and then read it on air.
we would love to hear those stories about where you saw White Cross or any other band that we talk about. We would love to hear those stories. At least I would.
And speaking of which, especially if you're new to the program, we have a Facebook page as well as a Facebook group page. And so sign up for those. I'm going to try and create some interaction through the audience through there by doing polls. We've actually got a poll coming up that I had posted on there. If I don't get too much traction or interaction, then I'll reach out to other groups on Facebook from the polls just to try and get some more responses. But it's always going to go up on the Facebook page first, and I'll post reels and shorts up there first. Maybe I'll post the episodes up there first beforehand. We've also got a web page too, like a website. All right, and I think that's it for the housekeeping.
That's good. If you love the show, share with your dog, your cat, everybody.
That's right, yeah, and don't forget to subscribe, follow, and catch new episodes as they come out. All right, so for the plug it in, we haven't done this for, like I said, for a few episodes. I wasn't sure if I was going to continue it. I think I will, and I think the way we're going to go with this is to promote people out there who are independent artists, need promotion, or anybody, as long as in fact, if you're listening to us and you're a Christian artist and you're playing hard rock, metal music, the kind of stuff that we're talking about,
If
give
you
us a
if you're
shout.
doing country, let us know. That would
No,
be okay.
no country. I don't know what podcast you're from, Kris, but yes, we would love to, promote you by playing your music, your song, and I reached out to a few sites that a lot of these artists are on, saying, "Hey, I'm looking for this kind of music," and actually, kind of surprisingly, I got I got a bunch of responses that I'm gonna have to go through, so it might be a while before people get their stuff on here. But one of the artists I was actually quite impressed. I think their album actually even makes my top 5 list this year, and I didn't even know about it until like a couple weeks ago, type of thing. So we're gonna talk about that for the plug it in, turn it up segment. Plug it in segment. This is a band, fairly new band called Under the Blood. They've got a one record out on all the streaming services called Narrow Road. Great kind of heavy blues, rock based, rock and roll. If you're familiar with the secular band Monster Truck, they remind me a lot of them. Their vocals are down in the lower Ridge Street, more like Mac Powell from Third Day as far as the vocal range. This song is called Let It Go.
I hear you call my name, but we're so far apart. I know where I need to be, but I just can't confess my heart. Always some kind of reason, always some kind of excuse to keep my head in the wrong direction when I should be crawling back to you. You're knocking at my door, and I know you want to take me home. This world's got a hold on me, and it just won't let me go. Good Lord, you help me, I can't seem to do it on my own. Break these chains that bind me, oh Lord, help me let it go. Let it go. This life I'm leading, this path I made on my own. I don't know how to change my ways, it's all I've ever known. I try to blame the world, but it's all on me. I know you paved our way on the straight path, even I can see. You're knocking at my door, and I know you want to take me home. This world's got a hold on me, and it just won't let me go. Good Lord, you help me, I can't seem to do it on my own. Break these chains that bind me, oh Lord, help me let it go. You're knocking at my door, and I know you want to take me.
What do you think of that?
Wow, his voice was awesome. I did not expect that. Very big big and bold, but I like it. I mean, the words were really clear here, right? That was awesome. And that was what Under the Blood. The song was what Narrow Road.
No, the album is called Narrow Road. The song was called Let It Go. Oh, wait, we forgot the news. So in the news, we really only have one bit, but it kind of leads into this poll as Michael
Mhm.
Sweet has announced that the cancer he was dealing with earlier has come back. I believe it's in his thyroid.
Oh, he's had it before.
Yeah, and yeah, he had it removed before. He's been cancer free for a while, like a year or two now. He says something about when he was tracking the last record that he was dealing with it. I think he's started working on brand new Stryper record too. Michael Sweet's always working. That guy just doesn't take a break.
Yeah, he's a workhorse. He really is. Well, I
But
didn't know that, but wow.
yeah, he had it before, had it removed. He's been cancer free for a while, at least a year, I think it was. But anyways, he said, yeah, came back. He says they're going in, I think, to operate, and he should be good for recording the next Stryper record early next year.
Good
So lots of
Lord,
prayers
that's
are
right.
being sent
Praise
his
God.
way.
I saw the video that he put out of it.
But did you? Okay. I
Yeah,
just
I saw
saw.
it. I
I
wasn't
saw.
sure. I asked our people if I could take it and put it on our show here. They didn't get back to me before airtime, so I decided that just like what we're doing now, we'll just talk about it.
Yeah. Or whoever handles their accounts as far as trying to interact with whoever reaches out to them are really slow. And I don't know how you get a hold of him to try and get
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 a
him on the
comment
to get him on the
or
program even.
get him on the program. Oh yeah, I think that will come. Oh no. Well,
Anyways,
yeah.
but like I said, I'm trying to get a little bit of interaction with the fans and with listeners by doing polls. Maybe I'll do other things on our Facebook page. So I thought, why not do a Stryper poll, and there'll probably be more of them to come instead of asking people to rank every Stryper record because they've got quite a few out now. I just start with the first 5. So counting Yellow and Black, which was really only an EP, but if we count that one, the first 5 being Yellow and Black, Soldiers Under Command, To Hell with the Devil, In God We Trust, and Against the Law. And to rank everybody, asking everybody to rank them 1 to 5, 1 being the best type of thing. And then I took all the results and kind of said, well, how many times did this one come in a 1 and 5? And from that, I came up with rankings. Not surprisingly, out of those 5, number 5 is Against the Law.
Okay.
And we think this past year we did a review on that. And I think it's not a bad record, but again, in light of the other ones, I would probably place it 5. And
Yeah,
number 4 came in with In God We Trust. Number 3 was the Yellow and Black Attack. Number 2 was To Hell with the Devil, making number 1 being Soldiers Under Command.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. I think, actually, I did rank them. I'll get to that in a second here. In all the comments I did, because I did this on one of the more well-known Christian rock and metal Facebook pages as well. One of the comments, and going by the assumption that this person is who this person says, Michael Sweet actually chimed in on his views and gave his ranking of the first 5 records. So his ranking is this: Against the Law, Yellow and Black at being 5 and 4.
Oh wait, he ranked Against the Law 1.
No, Against the Law being 5.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yellow and Black at 4. In God We Trust at 3. To Hell with the Devil at 2, and then Soldiers at 1. So Against the
That's
Law,
interesting.
Yellow. It was pretty close. All he did was, with the common group, switch 4 and 3 around. Otherwise, I think he had the same ranking as everybody else. Anyway, so here's my rank. Yeah, I had To Hell with the Devil at 1, Soldiers at 2, God We Trust probably be at 3, Yellow and Black 4, and I think I put Against the Law at
Same.
5.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I like Against the Law. Do I like it more than the other ones? Probably not.
Yeah. And see, I only know about the first two, right? Soldiers Under Command and To Hell with the Devil. That was the only two that I knew with Stryper. I didn't know about the other three.
You didn't know about In God We Trust? That was a big follow-up. And as much as I like it, the problem, I think, was it was too much sounding like To Hell with the Devil. And it's one thing to say, oh, this is great, it works, let's do it again. But the songs were just too much exactly like To Hell with the Devil. You can use the same formula, but still make it sound a little bit different. Anyways, so that's that. Okay, new music this past year. You know what? I've got 5 on my best of list for this past year. And I've got a couple songs I want to mention. So some of the songs that kind of hit my list this year was from a band called Ordained and Thunder Roars. It's a pretty good song. It's got that 80s sound, that power rock sound. Really good. Another one I want to talk about is from a guy named German Pascal. I like this guy. This is a guy that reached out to me when I said I'm looking for music that we could feature on the Plug It In. We'll probably feature some of his music later on upcoming episodes. He's kind of a power metal singer. Like his stuff is very power metal. Think of Rob Rock. His singing is a lot like Rob's, not quite as high as Rob Rock's singing.
He rings a bell.
Oh yes, he has. He has played with or sang for Narnia, I believe. Stepped in the studio with Christian to lay down vocals for the Narnia release, Course of a Generation. So he has done work with Narnia. I'm not sure, and he's got some of his own new albums out. He's got a new album that came out this past year, which almost as an album made my whole list. We'll have to talk about him more in coming episodes. But I would say one of the songs that kind of stood out for me was a song called Can You Save Me? And then another band that's actually a popular band, though I'm not a huge fan of, is Demon Hunter. Came out with a new album this year. And I'm kind of liking this song called I'm Done. There's a lot of hurt on this new one, dealing with just emotions more so than previously, I think. Demon Hunter is hard. I don't like it when they do the metalcore sound, but when they've got that other vocalist that does the melodic singing, I like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty cool. They're really cool.
Have you heard the new one called There Was a Light Here?
Briefly. But I've heard some of the earlier stuff by Demon Hunter, and it's just like you said, it's a little too heavy, but the vocals are amazing. I mean, wow. And the songwriting is pretty good too. But you have to like that generic metal to like it. And I just can't. It's a little too much. Maybe it's just me getting older. But, you know?
I was trying to look up something.
Maybe if it was us 30 years ago, we'd be into it, you know?
Right. All right. So what new music kind of hit your list this past year? You said you were into...
I went down to what would be the number one song or album for me that I really liked, and that was the one we did a couple of weeks ago on X Center.
Right.
That was it.
And you know what? The full album hasn't even been released yet. They've just been releasing it track by track. They haven't even released the full album yet. So
yeah, that exactly. I mean, my homework was done. I don't need to look.
So out of all the stuff
we've done, I know. I mean, there was the Reign in Glory album.
That's a good one.
Yes. Yeah. So you probably have a longer list than I do.
So you got those two.
I just did X Center, Reign in Glory. I was hesitant to put Whitecross, but I remember that's been out for almost 2 years. Like, wow. Yeah. I don't even remember who we interviewed in this past year. It's just gone like, woo.
Well, we talked to Dale Thompson of Bride.
Right.
and we talked to um, Doug Van Pelt from Heaven's Metal.
Oh
I have
yes,
to
yes, yes.
I have to go back too and find out who we've all talked to. That's coming up because we're going to be doing the best of clips. Oh, that's one of the other guests we did have on too. Is we had
One Bad
Carey Womack
Pig.
of One Bad Pig. Yes.
Yeah.
So I've got about 5 records on my list.
All right, let's hear them.
Well, the first 3 were real easy. The 1, 2, and 3 were real easy to pick, and then I'm like, okay, 4 and 5. What's gonna be 4 and 5? And I've listened to this a little bit throughout the year when it came out. Number 5, and you had messaged me. We were talking about this a little bit, but you know what? My number 5 is going to be "Behold the Beloved"
I
with the
that
harsh.
out for you.
No, I've listened to it since it came out, but
Okay.
I make a big playlist of every time a new album comes out, and when I throw it in random, there's sometimes I miss albums, don't get played or whatever. But then I'm looking through the list, going, okay, what haven't I heard off of this list, and let's have a listen to it. Like I said, we talked about German Pascal. I picked a song of his that I liked. His record's not bad either, but yeah. So the new one from Behold the Beloved, Harsh Realities, not bad at all. I'm kind of liking that. I may end up getting that. That's kind of my criteria for picking the best of records is, did I buy the record? Would I buy
Right.
the record? Because there's one record on here I haven't bought just because, again, the whole exchange and shipping rate makes things unaffordable. And I'm hoping I can afford the physical copies anyways. And we'll get that when I get to that. So number 4 was the album that our Plug It In segment comes from, A Narrow Road by Under the Blood. When they contacted me and says, hey, we got some music, would you play it? I listened to it, listened to the whole album going, this is actually really good.
They really are. Yeah.
Said, yeah, this is probably going on my list. So they ended up number 4. And, I just discovered them like maybe a couple weeks ago. Anyway, so now we're down to number 3. And, this could almost be like 3 and 4 or 3 and 2. This should maybe fill 2 spots because it's a double album. Bride with Shadows and Vipers.
Right.
So I remember when this came out, I know part of the sales pitch was, hey, it's a double disc. There's lots of songs. There's got to be something on here you like. Well, yeah, there is.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Yeah.
And you know what? I've heard some new clips of Bride live, and they're performing old songs. They're actually sounding good. So that's good that Dale, kind of still has it. Does he have it like he had 20 years ago? Does he sound exactly the same as, 30, 40 years ago? No. But he still brings a good sound to the old songs. So that's good to hear. Number 2 comes in with Worldview and their new record, Invincible. Worldview is a band with George Ochoa on guitars. George is known for his work with Deliverance, but this is the second Worldview record out. And they've got Ray Pera on vocals. Ray is known for his work in the 80s with Sacred Warrior. His work with Sacred Warrior was super high. It sounded like he was singing falsetto all the time. On this record, he's not quite as high. I think he's actually sounding better than ever before. I actually like his vocals on this better than I do with Sacred Warrior. Yeah, it's incredible. There's a couple songs in there that really stand out. Check out the songs Beware the Wolves and Mystery Babylon. But the whole thing is good. And then, yeah, my number 1, Reign of Glory. I love the first album. This album has a different singer. Mark Bowl just has a birthday this month. I don't have it written down in front of me now, so I don't know exactly what day. But this guy's incredible too. Probably a better singer than they had on the first record. I love songs off the first record, and this album, although it's slightly different because it's got different vocalists, still sounds incredible. I think I've been playing this ever since I had my hands on a copy. So yeah, Reign of Glory with Slingshot. So that's my top 5 records. Behold the Beloved, Under the Blood, Bride, Shadows and Vipers, Worldview, Invincible, and Reign of Glory, Slingshot.
Oh, and I have to add one on mine.
Okay, you got another one?
Petra's new single, Deliver Us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Yes.
I was listening to that, and I kind of went back. That's interesting you bring up Deliverance, because I was listening lately to the old singles out there.
Right.
State of Execution.
Yeah, and George said that they are planning on doing another Deliverance record coming out this coming year.
Oh my gosh.
But the one thing he did say is it will not be a Weapons of Warfare record. So if you're thinking of hearing Weapons of Warfare Part 2, you might be disappointed. It's going to be a little bit of a modern. No, with what he's done with the Worldview, yeah, I don't have to live in the past. I like sound. I like my bands from the past. I like stuff they did in the past.
Yeah, but gotta
If
move
they want
on.
to, yeah, move on. If they want to
That's
grow, that's
right.
great. Just as long as you don't do a U-turn or a left 90 type of thing and
That's right.
start doing country, start doing alternative. And
Wow.
all right, so we're going to move on. And I think the rest of the episode will be clips from throughout the past year. But our first episode of this past year, was us talking about the album Miracle Mile from Guardian.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
One of the things we didn't do with our reviews is give them a rating. We just kind of, do like most people do, talk about the record, talk about favorite songs off the record. I think from here on, we should start doing ratings for the records, a 1 out of 10. So from a 1 out of 10, where would you put Miracle Mile?
I'm just playing it in my head. Giving me a minute. I'll say a 4.
Only a 4? We're talking 10. We're talking 10 being the best. And you're only going to give it a 4?
Well, I'm trying. Okay, name some of the songs on it. Do you remember?
What's the opening track? Dr. Jones, Kings of Rhythm, Shoeshine Johnny, The Captain.
Yes, Shoeshine Johnny. Okay, yeah. Okay, a 5.
Only a 5? Okay. I put this at 9.
Wow.
Okay. It's a desert album for me. Almost a perfect record. There's just one or two too many ballads. Now, I do like a couple of their ballads on there. I love The Captain. And that's a slower song like a ballad. So I don't hate all ballads.
You heard it here first on Rock and Metal Faith. Fuck.
I know I hate a lot of ballads. I hate most ballads. There are a few that stand out. And all right. Curiosity Killed the Cat. Probably my top favorite song off the whole album. I just like that opening guitar riff, that do-do-do-do-do-do-do, great little riff. I don't know, not much to say. You know what? And a lot of these songs really show off Tony's guitar playing. His playing's incredible. If he's not mentioned in the top circles, he's being overlooked. We can talk about Rex Carroll all day. We can talk about, Ken Templing as a guitar player.
Yeah.
Whoever else is out there type of thing. Off the top of my head, I don't know, and there's a lot of great guys.
There's so
out there.
many, yeah.
But Tony Placios has got to be considered among the greats. Actually, I believe he is. If you talk to people in the know, they know.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. That's what I remember that back in the day. That's what, like some of the friends I knew back then, they were saying that, I mean, if you listen to Guardian, you got to love guitar work.
Oh, yeah.
Because, that's what they were known for.
Like I said, and I went back in the catalog there, listened to the first album, First Watch there, and it had a different style, but that was a good record too. Fire and Love, another great record. Then this thing comes out. This, I tell you, just blew everything out of the water. Okay, no. So another record we did was Stryper's Against the Law. We've been going through the Stryper catalog, and we came up with Against the Law. So 1 out of 10, 10 being the best. Where would you rate Against the Law?
Well, now that I know what everybody else thinks, I gotta, I'll say a 7. A 7.
Okay, not bad. That's what I would say too, a 7. I was going to say, you're not rating this against the rest of the catalog. You're just rating this by itself, 1 out of 10.
That's
where
right.
does this
That's
stand?
right.
Yeah. And like I said, I do think it's a good record. I think at this time I was ready for a change in direction from Stryper. We did not need To Hell with the Devil Part 3. So the fact that the record didn't sound like To Hell with the Devil, didn't sound like In God We Trust, I think was a good thing. The thing I think Michael doesn't like about this so much is basically the memories of where they were in their lives at the time it was recorded. A lot of them were kind of backsliding, weren't walking the walk of the faith type of thing.
Right.
Anyways,
You okay?
Yeah. So your thoughts on that song, Against the Law?
It's all right. It starts off rocking, and it's all right. I didn't mind it. What about you?
For me, it's a yay. Actually, this was something else I was going to bring up. This is not our first album review solo. It's our first Stryper album review solo. Every time we've done a Stryper album review, we've had a guest on.
Mhm.
And while I was thinking about that, there's some songs, there aren't any songs on here that are nay. There aren't any songs I don't like. There are songs I think that could have been better.
Yes.
Again, most of the ones that are the weaker songs would sound okay if another band had done them. And that's the other thing is, with the change in sound, Michael thought a lot of the songs sounded too much like Van Halen. And I didn't really hear that. All right. So one of the records too, now that I was covering a few records on the bonus episodes, and I want to throw this in there because there's a couple records in here that I've covered that I know you didn't cover. One of them is Rez with Rainbow's End. This was their second album. At this time, they were still known as Resurrection Band. And I would give this a 7. Out of the early stuff, it's one of my favorites. There's some good sounds on there. Is it perfect? I don't know if it's perfect. It's hard to say that there's a perfect record out there, although there are a few of them out there. And the other one I did as a bonus episode was Vipers and Shadows. We just talked about this from Bride. This made my best of list. Overall, though, when I look at a double record, I'm not usually impressed with double records. I rate this one as 6. There was some really good stuff on there. There's other stuff on there I'm going, not quite my favorites.
And this is Rex Carroll, lead guitar player from Whitecross. You are listening to the Rock and Metal Faith podcast. Crank it hard, crank it heavy, crank it all day long.
But I do have this thing about my homage to Eddie Van Halen. It's like I made a promise to myself after I heard the first Van Halen album. This Eruption thing is amazing. And so that's the gold standard now, right? That's the bar. So if it's good enough for Eddie, then it has to be good enough for the rest of us, right? You play guitar, if you have a recording contract, you have to do a guitar piece because it's good enough for Eddie. So it's got to be good enough for me. So that has inspired me. And at the end of the day, it has kind of worked in my favor a little bit because it's kind of a branding thing, right? Like people hear my album and they go, well, they know there's going to be some kind of little guitar piece on it. So there's that. Yeah. And that solo is a monster. That solo is a great solo. So not very well done, but but I still play that to this day.
Hello, this is Scott Wenzel from Whitecross. You're listening to Rock and Metal Faith. Biggest influence was Glenn Kaiser and Resurrection. I also loved Petra because they were on there heavy enough for me. I wanted to be more rocking like Res Band. And so he was the biggest influence in my life, Glenn Kaiser. I mean, he's got the greatest voice I've ever heard.
Right. Yeah. No, those guys are great. I'm a big fan of Rez as well. Came into them later in their career, but definitely a big fan of those guys as well.
Phone, grab my guitar, and I would sing. I pretend I was him. And that's how I started, just singing like Glenn. I just thought he had the most rocking voice. Because it's kind of raspy, almost like AC/DC a little bit. But I just loved his voice. I think he has the best voice in Christian rock. We'll find it there. And I love that one. I had actually, it's funny because I have to talk about Glenn again, but I didn't know how to sing the blues. Rex wrote this blues song, and I get in the studio behind the mic, and I don't know what to do. So Glenn was called into the studio by Rex, and and Glenn laid down the vocal for me. He took like 3 minutes and laid down this perfect vocal, rocking vocal. And I took that tape home that night, studied it, and studied it and sang and studied Glenn. And then I went to the studio and sang it perfect. And you will find it there.
All right, another one we talked about. Then we talked about this together. Was Michael Sweet's first solo record when he left the band. Just dubbed Michael Sweet, or we call it 1994 because that's when that came out. If you remember that one, what would you rate this one?
I would say a 7.
Okay, I put it as 6. I remember. I think when we went through and talked about it, I thought it was a little better than when I first got it. When I first got it, I loved the rockers on there. There's some really good rockers on there. And I thought the rest of it was kind of just okay, just kind of meh. And then we did our track by track, and I thought, well, maybe it's a little better than I thought. So I give it a 6.
All right.
What's happening, guys? This is CG Wright from the Cinematic Masters Ironwrath, and you're listening to the Rock and Metal Faith podcast.
All right. So when did you find God and become a Christian?
Man, I believe I was 16. I'd been rock and rolling for about 3 years at that time. And one was a buddy. We'd go up in the orange groves and get stoned, and then we'd go play some music. And he gave me a track. He wasn't a Christian, but he just had it in his pocket, thought it was cool. And he was, hey, take one of these, and put it in my pocket. Didn't even know I had it. A couple of days later, I found it, and it was a track that basically explained the gospel. And that's the first time I really heard about Jesus Christ. I didn't know about that. I'm like, who's this Jesus dude? He what? Died for my sins. I didn't know there was an issue, and I guess there is. And then there was a basic phrase in there that said, you would have been the only one that would have died. If you had been the only one who would have sinned, Jesus still would have died for you. Now, that's not scripture, but the principle is in scripture. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. But Jesus had a plan and purpose, and he loves us. And it's like, why would you love someone like me? And it really rocked me to the core. And I thought, well, if you gave your life for me before I even knew you, then I'll follow you then. That's it. And I committed my life. I've been a Christian for like 40 plus years now, man. So, and I never regret any of it, man. And it's not a crutch. It's not anything, man. I have a relationship with the creator of the universe that created us for his purpose and for his glory, not for our own. So I trust in him, and I'm very grateful for his love and grace in my life and forgiving me of my sin and sins, and I couldn't be more happy or more grateful that, I have a relationship with the creator of the universe and have an opportunity to know him. And then by doing that also, I want to share that with other people. I want to be an example for the people that are looking in this lost world to try to find a way, to try to find an answer. But instead of looking this way, right, they need to look that way. So anyways, that's my story. So
That's a
That
great
is
story.
cool.
that win the new car. Did I get it right?
That's great, and to say it started with the track came from one of those street preachers, and
Yeah.
a lot of people walk past them and make fun of them, but to know that seeds get planted and eventually grow, that's great to know.
Yeah, I'm a product of those guys you see on the side of the road, just like, hey, take one of these. It made a difference. I mean, that's how the message was delivered to me. And then when we play live, we really play live for, across the board, but we have tracks that got, our keyboards and stuff that we're not playing live, but we allow those subs to be in there because live in concert, you have the subs. So now you got this wall of sound that's like if you went to a movie theater. And in between some of the songs, I mean, a whole show is a movie. It's 19 movies put together that create this. But in between, let's say we're going from drop D to drop C, and they got to change guitars. Most bands would stop and they're changing, and the singer's like telling a story. This stage goes dark, a film plays, and in the dark, we're changing stuff over. So the show really never stops. It's a continual story, and we use transitions to do that. So the films as well have the sub. So it's just having a deeper space in the fidelity is really what we chose to do. And that's a choice.
All right, and then the album that kind of started off the interview, One Bad Pig with Ice Cream Sunday. Do you remember that record?
Yes,
How would you rate that one?
a 5.
5? All right. Yeah, I know you weren't much of a One Bad Pig fan. I actually
No.
surprisingly made this almost the highest rating. I made this an 8. I was gonna rate it
Wow.
out. Yeah. I remember when it came out, I actually liked it quite a bit. I played it quite a bit. The favorite songs from, the crowd favorites on there. Definitely my favorite songs as well. And I'm going, yeah, I'll give this an 8. All right, so on to our top 10 list. I'll explain the list for those who are just joining us for the first time. The top 100 guitar list was created by a online site called Christian Rock Scene, I believe. They compiled a list of guitarists by interviewing artists themselves, their readers, listeners, anyone subscribed to the site, I guess, and people in the industry like managers, record labels. I think I'm not sure who is all involved in this. Then they kind of compiled the list. Moving on to number 5 on our list. I hope I say this name correctly. Kris Impellitteri.
Wow, that's quite a name.
Yeah. He puts out records under his last name, Impellitteri. He had one out last year. This guy, I was going to say, you could compare him to Yngwie Malmsteen. There was somebody else I was going to try and compare him to. Sounds a lot like the music or the band that backs up Rob Rock. That kind of playing. Very fast, very speed metal. That's where the Yngwie Malmsteen comparison comes in. And as I was listening to his last record that he put out, it does remind me a lot of Rob Rock's music, or definitely in that style, put it that way. So we got one
I
of our
was
speed
just
metals.
thinking about Rob Rock, so that's
Yeah?
interesting.
So we got one of our speed metal players coming in at number 5. All right. Now number 3 is an artist we know from the band Guardian, Tony Palacios. I love Guardian, or I love
Yeah,
the
his
early
riffs are
Guardian
pretty good. Yeah.
and stuff. Was it Miracle Mile was a great album. All right, number 2, one of our favorite guitarists. Don't really need to say anything more about him. He was on your list, my list, number 2, number 1, where we play him every time, every episode. No, it's not Stryper. We already had Michael Sweet on the main list earlier. Unfortunately, he did not make the top 10 on the main list. I don't know what's wrong with people. Why did Michael Sweet not make number 1? I don't know. But number 2, we play him every time we start the podcast off. Carroll of Whitecross.
Yeah.
Need we say any more about Rex? All right, number 1. I think we've already talked about him a little bit because he was on your list. Here's an artist that has got lots of recognition in the community. Phil Keaggy.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Doug Van Pelt of Heaven's Metal Magazine. Thanks for listening to Rock and Metal Faith. Hey, thanks for watching Rock and Metal Faith.
The other thing I want to touch on too, since we're talking about the Big Four thrash, or specifically, I guess, with Vengeance, is Roger Martin is falling away from Christianity and stuff after Vengeance broke up, after his second, or Vengeance Rising Point 2, I guess you could say, 2.0 or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
after they went away there, he kind of went away from Christianity and became very angry towards some of those who were Christians.
Yeah. That was a tough thing for me to deal with because in a lot of ways, Heaven's Metal became a hangout place. You know, people in the scene read the magazine, so they were looking to us to see, okay, what are you going to say about this? And one of the things that Roger did is, you know, he claimed to be like a satanic atheist, and he was very adamant about trying to use his mailing list. Like Vengeance back in the day, like I said, they were one of the best selling metal bands. They were one of the best selling merchandise as far as t-shirt orders and stuff. And
Wow.
he was a pastor, and he was a really good speaker. And so he had teaching tapes back on cassette, and he had teaching tapes about repentance or beer or the rapture or whatever, all these different subjects under the sun. He had probably at least 100 different teaching tapes, and a lot of people were getting discipled by him. And he would send them the teaching tapes, and they could ask him questions, and he would answer them from a biblical viewpoint. And he was doing a lot of good. And then when he apparently got really bitter over how things ended with his band and his life, and he turned away from God, he started sending letters to those people on his mailing list. And some of those people were like 17-year-old kids who they're looking for direction, and all of a sudden now they're getting direction from like a wolf or somebody who's trying to steer them towards Satan or to abandon their faith in God. And so that was like a little bit like, and you think of like sheep and wolves and a shepherd, as Heaven's Metal had the responsibility of being a shepherd at any way whatsoever. If we had some responsibility to inform or guard or encourage our audience or warn our audience, this was a situation where, you know, we didn't ask for this, but people were looking to us. It's like, what are you going to do? You know, what's going on with this Roger guy? So I did an interview with him. I got his story about why he left his faith in God. He attributed that to a study on divine healing he did, and he felt like he couldn't find any evidence of divine healing anywhere, and that started him down the road to become an atheist. And he was really kind of trying to go out almost like an evangelist for atheism.
Right.
He wasn't just like dropping out and just doing his thing. He was going after his old audience and saying, you should be an atheist like I should. So Heaven's Metal kind of took a stance like church discipline, like in the book of Corinthians, where that one
Yeah.
guy was messing around, and Paul said, hey, turn him over to Satan for the destruction of his flesh. Let God deal with him. And hopefully this will, you know, get his attention and he'll come back. And in 2 Corinthians, we find out Paul's actually saying, hey, yeah, tell that guy to come on, you restore him now, because so that was apparently a good ending to that story in the Bible. And so at Heaven's Metal, we try to take that approach and just basically say, hey, stay away from Roger. He's, you know, he's got off the deep end. Here's his own words. And that was a really tough thing to go through. But because he was not only uh, the singer of a good band, but he was a pastor, a great speaker. And it was just sad to lose that, and
Yeah.
sad to hear.
All right. And the last album that we talked about this year was from Saint and the Revelation.
Yes. How could I have forgotten that?
Now, some
Right.
people know this under the name The Mark, because we talked about this. It was originally titled The Mark, as in the Mark of the Beast. And then they re-recorded it or remixed it and then retitled it The Revelation. So, where would you rate this, 1 to 10?
An 8. That was a kick butt album.
That's
I like
what I gave it as well. I give it an 8 as well. It's a great album. That means other Saint records are probably a 9 or a 10 because this is not the best Saint record, but it's a good record. If I look at it as a standalone record, it's heavy. It moves you. There's one song there that's kind of a ballad. Otherwise, I could say no ballads on this record.
Come on.
There's one or two that are a little slower, maybe not quite a full ballad, and they work on the records. I don't hate those songs, but yeah, I give it an 8 as well. I'm a big fan of Saint. All right, well, hey, like we said, the Bible, especially the Book of Revelation, is full of great metal or great imagery, great for metal music. What better imagery than the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse riding out, ride to kill? Actually, this is one of my favorites off the record. Actually, I kind of like that line there, talking about scorpions and accuracy they strike. That comes out, again, right out of the Book of Revelation, the Bible, and things that are going on the earth. We're right back in the heavy guitars.
There's a couple lines in there from the Bible that I liked to when I first heard it. I'm like, that is cool.
Right.
Sounds really, really.
As much as I pinpoint that line or whatever, I like that line too. The whole album comes straight out of the Bible, like we said before. So everything is out of the Bible, but there's a few things that stand out in your mind. And if they had skipped over it, you probably wouldn't notice that they skipped over it, but they didn't skip over it. And then it just makes it stand out, I think. So, definitely great writing lyric wise, I think. Heavy guitars. And you're right. And then we got to talk to Carey, and so it was because we did this Ice Cream Sunday that other people reached out to us and says, hey, we can get Carey Womack on for you. So I says, yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and do it.
Yo, everybody. This is Kosher from One Bad Pig. You are listening to Rock Metal Faith Podcast. So when we did Ice Cream Sunday with Billy, the band said, we want this to be our album. We don't want to have all these guest artists and, we want to play artists. And then our A&R guy, Mark Maxwell, came to us and said, what would you think if we could have like one special guest shot? And we said, okay, yeah, that might be cool to just one special guest on this album. And he said, no, I would about this, but people at work, you think if we tried to work something out? And we said, yeah, that would be really cool. That would be awesome. And so when we were doing the recording sessions for those tracks, well, and doesn't have a bunch of the big guest, spots on it. He had Paul Kupek had worked out an arrangement of Man in Black. And so when we were cutting all the tracks, we cut it in the studio and we cut a scratch vocal of Johnny's part. And I did mine like we thought I would really do it. And then I did a scratch of parts we thought that he would sing. And I ad-libbed some stuff at the end saying, excuse me, this kind of stuff. And I'm saying sort of self-deprecating things, but I'm also having in my scratch vocal, I'm having Johnny saying, I'm the real pretender, or I don't remember what the things were. So we finished recording that. We still don't know if Johnny's going to do it or not. And then the day is set when Johnny's going to come record. And several media outlets, a couple of Christian music, and it's late past the hour, and Johnny's still not there. And our bass player says, hey, what if we spent some time praying together? So we all went out into the main room of the studio and got in a circle praying. Our heart. and we hear a door, and suddenly we realize that, okay, Johnny Cash is here. And so, he said, sorry, I'm late. He said, my mother's on her deathbed. We've been having a death watch. She's really, really, really sick, but I just felt like this was something I really needed to do. And Daniel, the bass player, again said, hey, Johnny, you want to join us? We were just praying. And so he got in the prayer circle, and we all prayed. And he was appreciative of that. And then Johnny gets all set up to do his vocal, and listens to the scratch vocal and what we want him to do on the various parts and the way we've broken it up. And Billy's in the roof, and Johnny starts in, and his voice is big, fabulous, and so real. I mean, it's just, and what it was. And then Billy starts saying, Johnny, could you take that again? And a little more of this, a little more like that. And we're all watching this in the booth, and we're going, Johnny, what do? Please do that. And, but he was just a pro. He took all the direction and everything. Where we had done those ad libs and stuff. And I had done the things that were, that were sort of self-deprecating of myself, but had him saying some things. I'm the real Johnny Cash. And so one of my ideas is, excuse me, Johnny, I guess that's you. And he does, no, that's all right. We're in it at all, and so he said things that were complimentary, and he said things that we're all in this as one, and we're part of the body of Christ, and we're getting the message out to people. And then, and he was just pro. He did that.
So from the first album, Get It, what do you got? Your favorites?
Lift them up. Oh, yeah, that's a good song. And I forget what the first one was on that album.
Medicine?
Medicine's pretty good.
Which one?
Living on the Edge. Yeah.
That's not bad. And so before we get into my picks, here's my thoughts on it. I got this, like I said, 89. I was in high school at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was in high school. I remember someone said to me, and I would probably agree with them, that this was this was a perfect record. And he said it was a perfect driving album. You pop this in your cassette deck. I don't even know if we had CDs back then. Pop this in your cassette deck in your car, go for a nice long 40-minute drive. How long is the album? It doesn't say. Oh, wait, 39 minutes. Go for a 39-minute drive. Great album to go driving to. You know why? Oh, ballads. Not a single ballad on this record. I love it.
I knew that you would do that. I knew you would say that. It is. It really is. It just doesn't stop. And boy, oh boy.
Actually, and the other thing that I was going to say, but we're not going to mention, X-Center gets compared an awful lot to AC/DC. And they were on, I know, I saw a clip somewhere from one of the band members with X-Center asking him about that. He says, you guys sound an awful lot like AC/DC. Was that intentional? Was that just because AC/DC is one of your main influences? Where does that come from, type of thing? And they tried to downplay that. This is, first of all, no. This is, we're not trying to sound like AC/DC. Although I think they did. But here's my point on the comparisons. Said, and I think it was Rex Scott they were talking to. Anyways, he says something about, we just like playing hard rock and roll, and this is the music that we make. And yes, now anytime you get electrified, amped up, blues-driven, 3-chord rock and roll, which is exactly what X-Center is, And that's exactly how I would describe AC/DC. So that's why they got that comparison. I think X Center may have been the only Christian band with this style of format. So that kind of set them apart in the Christian market.
Yeah.
And yes, there were moments where they sound like Def Leppard. You gotta also remember too, in the early albums with Def Leppard, they were trying to be a cross between AC/DC and Queen. So if they
Yeah.
sound like Def Leppard, they're going to have that AC/DC sound in there too. Not to harp on the comparison. Like I said, anytime you have that 3-chord, hard driving blues, and a lot of the riffs are blues riffs, you just electrify them, amp them up, speed them up, and there you go. So maybe
I
it's not the
think
best
X Center does a great job titling their songs that are really catchy. You know, the titles of it, they're all really good.
Short and sweet, a lot of times, nothing too complicated about their lyrics, but sometimes that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so I like Rolling Thunder. That's a good one. So, I Take Power was a good song. And then it was kind of hard to pick or narrow it down to a third one. I would say maybe Getcha, which was kind of cool. Getcha has kind of a cool little funky riff to it. All right, that should be about it. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to you next year.
Yeah, thank you.